Well, hey, everybody, it's Casey Jaycox with the Quarterback Dadcast. Welcome again to season 5. Welcome again to the video version of this episode. I'm so glad I did this. I was just telling our next guest, Mr. Adam Packard, that I wish I would have done this earlier. But shout out to many who've been pushing me along the way. And there's a phrase I like to say in my coaching business, which is don't let the start stop you. Well, I was letting the start stop me, but I'm glad I'm not doing that anymore. But our next guest I mentioned is Adam Packard. He's a Nittany Lion. He is the founder of Ninja Prospecting. He's a golf pro. He's a Caddyshack lover. He's an entrepreneur, but more importantly, he's a dad. And that's why he's here today to talk about how he's working hard to become the ultimate quarterback or leader of his household. So without further ado, Mr. Packard, welcome to the Quarterback Dadcast.
Thanks. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, first question out of the gate, we always say, tell me, what are you most grateful for as a dad today?
Oh, man. Everybody says, having kids is, it changes your life, right? But you don't believe it till it actually happens. But yeah, I mean, I just love being a dad. I'm grateful we have a very close family. I have, a brother who has a son as well that's a couple years older than my son. I have 2 stepkids as well. So I kind of had a built-in family when I met my wife. But yeah, family is first for us. I think, my goal is to build my business around my life, not my life around my business. So
Love it.
grateful I get to take him to school and pick him up and take him to soccer practice and do fun outings because he's at the age, every age is fun, but he's 9 now. And it's just, the conversations we have, the adventures we have is just the best thing.
Love it. Well, I'm grateful for, I mentioned this before we started record. So this is August 22nd, everybody. This episode will come out in a couple weeks. But today is the day that I am taking my son off to college in the family truckster. And I knew this day was coming. And hopefully I won't get emotional in this episode. I might, you never know. But man, it is way harder, everybody, than I ever thought. Way harder. And it's going to be great. We're going to have a lot of laughs along the way. We're going to enjoy the drive. And I'm just grateful for, we got a 4-hour drive today, actually a 3.5 hour drive today, and another 4 hours tomorrow. He's actually going to go play golf at Southern Oregon University. And
awesome.
He's really excited to see where he goes. Fortunately, he decided to meet this fantastic young woman, Charlie, and she came into our life, and we're going to miss her around the house for sure.
It's going to be hard.
Oh man. But anyway, not about me. It's about you.
I got 9 more years. So,
oh, dude, enjoy it. I mean, all the cliches are true. It freaking goes by so fast. I mean, I remember playing wiffle ball with my kid your age, your son's age. But anyway, okay. Before we get into dad stuff, favorite Caddyshack quote is?
God, there's so many. I would say it's probably. So right in the lumberyard. Do you do drugs, Andy? Yeah, every day. What's the problem?
Good. It seems to be a problem. I don't know. I got to go to college. What, Nebraska? So I could quote Caddyshack for days, everybody, and I had to go to comedy to make sure the tears don't come in this episode because it's not about me, it's about Adam. So bring me inside the Packard huddle. You talked about briefly 9-year-old, you got a son, you got stepkids. Tell me a little bit about life inside the Packard family now. Who are the members of the squad, and bring me inside the huddle?
Yeah, so we have the 2 older boys. One is just graduated college. He's 22, Cole. He is doing an internship in Boston and then moving to Seattle for work, which makes mom a little upset. But
I'm in Seattle.
Oh, you're in Seattle, yeah. But far from us.
Yeah.
And then the 19-year-old's a sophomore at University of Arizona. So, they're here, periodically. They at that age, they kind of come and go as they please. And then our 9-year-old Hudson is a 3rd grader. He plays soccer on a club team. He's addicted to soccer. We have a soccer net out back. We play every single day. My wife's a children's book author, and she stays home and manages the household so I can do my thing. But yeah, we do a ton of stuff together, family dinners, family outings. We do a lot of vacations, a lot of staycations, a lot of great places here in Arizona to stay. But yeah, we, family for us is everything, and we're as tight, I think, as any family could be. So that's pretty awesome.
Very cool. And tell me how you and your wife met.
It's a funny story, actually. So, I, being a golf pro, one of the things I always wanted to get better at was flexibility. And everybody always said you should try yoga. And so I started taking yoga classes, hot yoga, where it's 105 degrees with 90% humidity. And I did it for golf, but I also did it because 90% of the class is female, and I was single at the time, and they're all good looking and attractive. So I went to a yoga class. I bought a Groupon to a new yoga studio, and she was the instructor. And so yeah, I saw her, and I was like, I started to. She jokes because she taught a 5:30 a.m. class, and I started showing up at her 5:30 a.m. class. And I'm at that point in my life, I wasn't a morning person, but I would start showing up just to her classes. And eventually, I overheard her say something about her ex, and that kind of gave me the open door to start the conversation.
Green light, Rip Driver.
Yeah, yeah. I joke. I was like, you've already seen. I mean, in yoga, hot yoga, you're basically wearing nothing. You got like small shorts on, no shirt. And I looked at her. I was like, hey, you've pretty much seen what you're going to get, right? So there's gonna be no surprises. So if you like what you see, then let's take the next step.
So good. I actually used to do hot yoga back pre-COVID. I just hasn't happened. I still exercise. Pretty much my fitness goals are don't get fat and don't get hurt.
Right.
At the ripe old age of 48. But my yoga story, shout out to a guy named Joel Osted, if you're listening. Probably isn't, but if he is, I remember he was a former client of mine. I worked in corporate, and he said, "Jaycox, you got to come try yoga with me." I'm like, "All right." I mean, I'm thinking, what a great way to build relationships. That was kind of maybe a little bit odd that two dudes are going to go to yoga together, but I was like, "Hey, what the hell? We'll try it." I go and happily married everybody, 25 years, but there was this fantastic hot woman in the yoga, and I told my wife about her when I got home. But I'm like, right in front of me, I'm like, I couldn't even barely focus on freaking the yoga. I'm like, this is freaking the best thing ever. I'm going to get it again. Well, the next time I go, I get a 400-pound Chewbacca dude that looked like a mix of like, Sloth from Goonies and freaking,
Chewy.
Chewbacca. It was just like,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, just reeked of booze. I'm like, what in the hell? I'm out. But luckily I've not seen that gentleman ever since, and hope he's doing well wherever he is.
I'm sure he's not listening.
Good point. Well, I'd like to then go back in time. I always like to ask my guests, uh, tell me what was life like growing up for you, and talk about the impact your parents had on you now that you're a dad.
Yeah, I grew up in a small town in Maine. Probably about 3,000 people. There were 79 kids in my graduating class. So,
Wow.
everybody knew everybody. My dad was a business owner. My mom stayed home. Have one older brother that's a couple years older than me. But yeah, I mean, my wife jokes because her family life was horrible, or I should say challenging. And she jokes that my life growing up was like the Brady Bunch, right? It's like great parents, supportive. Dad was always at practices and at all the games, and mom, ran us everywhere, and was the bus driver. But yeah, I had a great childhood growing up. My dad got me into golf when I was like 4 years old. We started playing together. So yeah, I loved the area that we lived. We lived on a lake. We spent time boating, golfing. But yeah, I had a great experience growing up, right? And I wanted to make sure I tried to do the same thing when I had a family. Was I want to be that provider, and I didn't want I'm kind of old school. I didn't want my wife to have to work. If she wanted to work, she could, because I knew how important it was having that
Yep.
family family time.
Yeah, I agree, man. We were lucky and fortunate. My wife was able to stay home for like the core, I'd say, from like 4 until 16, and then she had a great opportunity to go back to work. Shout out to Clear Edge Marketing. She works part time now, and it's the best she can. It's good for me and my kids that we're going to do more stuff around the house, and these stuff doesn't magically get done. We don't have a dishes genie or a dishes laundry person. Like, we actually have to do it now, which is good for all of us. But I think it's good that, one, we had stay at home mom, but also now the kids can see mom is a beast, and she can do probably a lot more better stuff than I can. And I like having a mix of both.
Yeah.
Tell me what kind of business your dad was in, out of curiosity.
So he started a copier business. So he was
Hmm.
the franchise owner for Sharp copiers and
Okay.
faxes. So he owned the New England territory, and he grew that to, I think he had like 150 employees at one point, and 17 million in sales. And he eventually sold it to Icon Office Solutions. But yeah, he was in the copier business for years and years, and um, I think he sold it back in early 2000, and then he jokes around saying, he retired and realized he didn't play golf well enough to play golf every day. So he dabbles in a lot of different ventures now. He helps us out with some marketing stuff too, which is fun.
I wonder if he knows that one of my good buddies. So we actually spend time on the East Coast every summer. We go to this island called Cuttyhunk. Have you heard of it?
Is that in Massachusetts?
Yeah, it's off the coast of
Okay.
New Bedford.
Okay.
And but one of my best buddies out there, shout out to Jamie Ackerman. He's been in the copier business for almost 30 years in New England, Rhode Island area.
He
He worked for, I think he worked for Icon or Konica.
Okay.
This
He
might have been
probably. I'm sure their paths have crossed at some point because my parents were in Hartford, Connecticut for a while,
okay.
and then moved up to Maine. So yeah,
Okay, very cool.
yeah.
Were you guys hockey fans growing up?
No, I wasn't a hockey fan. It was just so, hockey was so big in Maine. I didn't have it as a sport at my school, but I never really got into hockey. I was a golfer. I was a basketball player, and tennis. Those are my sports. So I played a little bit of baseball and soccer growing up, but that golf was kind of was my thing. I played as much as I could. Short golf season in Maine, which made it a little
Yeah,
challenging.
but
But
2 weeks.
yeah. I remember playing in our high school championship, and I think it was in October, and the ground was frozen and it was snowing. And so yeah,
Dude.
of course I never wore pants, right? My dad and I are always wearing shorts. Doesn't matter if it's cold or not. He could be in 30-degree, Maine, and he'd be walking around in shorts. So yeah, he's a funny guy.
Which just makes sense why I live in Arizona now.
Yeah, I love it out here.
Yeah.
The pool's like 90 degrees. You can't beat it.
Wow. Um, as you think about growing up for you, I'm always interested to hear what like core values or lessons that were important to to your mom and dad, that like, well, these are the must haves um, that were staples in your household. So out of curiosity, tell me or describe a story or two or a value or two that really pops in mind when I ask that question.
Oh, integrity, I think, is just, as I'm just thinking off the top of my head, my parents, are people that, do what they say they're going to do. They put family first always. Um, and just be a good person. I mean, that's, treat other people the way you want to be treated. And so I try to, share that with my son and give him kind of the lessons that I learned growing up. But yeah, my parents were always just, I mean, they're awesome. I mean, I have nothing, I hear all these, childhood trauma and challenges and divorce, and I was lucky enough to not have to deal with any of that. So I can't relate to a lot of people that didn't have good childhoods like my wife, because I had such a great upbringing. But yeah, I think just staying true to your word, honesty, integrity, doing the right thing, being a good person. Um, and then he was always good at, because he was an entrepreneur, obviously that kind of showed me the path that I wanted to go down, even though my career didn't start that way. But he was always a big goal setter. And so he had us setting goals. I was probably 6 or 7 years old when he, one of the things he asked us to do for Christmas was, I don't want any gifts. I don't need any ties or any, golf stuff. He said, just send me your goals, what you want to do this year. And so we would set goals in, what do you want to do in sports? What about, family, academics? And so we would be writing our goals every Christmas, and sharing that. So I need to do a better job now. It's kind of a light bulb moment for me to start to do that more with my son. I think he's at the age where he can start to do that too.
Can you remember some of the goals you set as a kid?
Yeah, I set a goal to have a hole in one year. I set a goal to have all A's on my report card, to make the golf team, make the varsity basketball team. Trying to think what else I had. National Honor Society. Yeah, those are some of the ones that I had when I was growing up.
Did we achieve them?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The hole in one happened, didn't happen until I was 19. But I figured I'd put it on the goals. I also had a goal to beat my dad in golf because, I think I beat him when I was about 12 for the first time, which was pretty cool.
If you see me shake my head, it's out of jealousy. I'm 48 years old. The lowest I've been is a 0.7. I'm now 4.5. I've been so close.
Yeah.
And
That's
I
still really
golf
good.
gods. I deserve a hole in one. I feel like I've put in my time.
Yeah.
I've lipped out. I've hit the pin. I've been on the edge. And then I get these buddies who, I got like 6. I got like
I know.
4. I'm like, dude, I'm a better golfer than you. That's not fair.
I've only had one, and I've been playing golf for 40 years, and it's a little frustrating. I've had one albatross too, which was cool. It happened last year. So one
Damn.
albatross, I got a 2 on a par 5, and then the hole in one. I think the 2 on a par 5 is actually harder to do, but that was pretty
Wow.
cool.
If I got a 2 on a par 5, I might go streaking. I mean, that just lose my
That
mind.
happened on the first hole. The first hole was a par 5, and I knocked it in. And I was playing with a buddy of mine, and yeah, I had 2 more eagles on the front, so I think I shot 30 on the front that day. It was pretty cool.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I hope my son gets one before me. That's I will say.
Yeah, and hopefully you're playing with him when it happens. That would be awesome.
What's funny is that for all the golfers, I'm sorry, we'll get back to that stuff, but like every time I think they're like, oh, go in, it's all over. You feel like it's good. I go up there, I'm like 20 feet.
I know.
It's never close.
I know. Yeah, the one I had, I was actually playing with Jim McLean, who was a big teacher on the Golf Channel. I was working at a golf course in Massachusetts, and he came up to do a clinic. And while the tournament was going on, we ran to another course next door, and we played in like 2 hours. So, we're just running from hole to hole. But 17th hole, I hit it, and I could see it just kind of take the hill and go in, and that was a pretty cool moment.
Oh, I definitely want to be able to see it. I would love to be able, we got some pretty cool holes where I play on my golf course, and like there's one like the downhill par 3 where you can back it up and be able to see that. That'd be cool to see that going. But I'm not going to be.
I know. I need to get another one. I'm overdue.
Yeah. So when you said goal setting, you definitely made me think of my kids. We did that a lot. We did that on New Year's Eve. And we'd set goals, and it was so funny to see the things they'd write down, and we'd have them, they'd do it in front of their friends, and then they would speak. They'd say, well, this is what I want to do. And we'd go around, and it was so cute but I think that mindset, I see it now with my kids. Like they still write stuff on their room. They still, they have whiteboards. And so, I think they see like my whiteboard behind you can't see it, but it's like things I write down. I have a vision board over here to the right that I write down. And so I think I'm a big believer in mindset. You can manifest things. You see it and then believe it. And hence the word behind me.
Yep.
And these are powerful things, just like the values your dad and mom taught you about, treat people the way you want to be treated. Seems pretty easy, everybody, yet we don't do it.
Yeah.
When you're a kid, it's important, but you get into corporate, you can be an asshole to somebody. You can flip somebody off on the road, and we just choose negativity. But I think we all need to remember that our kids are watching us.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you know you wanted to become a golf professional at one point?
I didn't know what I wanted to do after high school. My brother moved west. He actually went from Maine to Arizona State because he wanted to go to a big school, and I wanted to go to a party school. So he chose Arizona State, which is one of the biggest party schools there is. So he moved out west. But we had always kind of vacationed out here just to because we loved golf, and we had some friends that were out here. So we kind of got a taste of it. But coming out of high school, I was a good golfer. We won the state championship. I was an all-state golfer, and had some offers to play at some different courses or to some different colleges. But I decided, it'd be kind of fun to be a teaching pro and be a golf pro. And so at the time, there was only 4 schools in the country that had what's called a professional golf management program, which is basically you go through all the curriculum of the PGA to become a Class A professional while you're doing all your school stuff. So it was almost like, and there was 4 schools. It was Penn State, Mississippi State, Ferris State, a small school in Michigan, and New Mexico State. So I went and looked at New Mexico State. Mississippi State was out. I wasn't going to Mississippi. Nothing against Mississippi, but just wasn't. It would be a culture shock for me. New Mexico State was in the middle of nowhere. Las Cruces, New Mexico, that was out. And Penn State was close enough to home where I could get home if I needed to. It was a 10-hour drive. It was a big school, great sports school. And so that's where I decided to go. I only applied to one college, and I got in. And yeah, I just decided, you know what, this is how I want to start my career. I did it for a few years, and I always joke that it was a fun experience. I got to work at some great courses. I worked at Pinehurst in '99 when Payne Stewart won the Open.
Wow.
Um, I have been to the Masters a bunch of times, so it was just if you're a golf fan, it's kind of fun to be in the golf business for a little while. But I hit that burnout. I gave 2,500 lessons one year, which is like 10 to 15 lessons a day for a year, and I just got tired of it. You work long hours, you don't make very much money, and sadly, you don't usually get to play a lot of golf. But it was a fun career, kind of a good starting point, and I moved away from that after about 4 years.
Yeah, I definitely I see that. Shout out to Greg Manley. Manley's buddy of mine, he's our GM, former club pro at a place called Meridian Valley where I play, and now he's the head of the Kingdom at TaylorMade. And he's a former guest, and I was able to spend time down at TaylorMade and did some work with them from a speaking perspective. It was an absolute blast. But that was one of his reasons why he went out too, is because of, sure, other reasons, but I think you just get burned out and you
Yeah,
can't. It looks like, oh, this must be fun. You're always in the golf course, but it's like that's the last place you want to be
exactly.
after doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Um, as you think about your when you got married, and you said something earlier about your wife now, and some difficult challenges with her upbringing. How much did you learn the skill of empathy in dealing with that journey?
I'm still learning that. I think men and women are obviously see things differently. Like, I'm a fixer. If she tells me a problem, instead of sympathizing with her, I'm usually trying to fix it. Like, let me solve the problem, right? That's how I think. I'm trying to be better at just listening and understanding and just being there for her. And luckily there's some funny TV shows that we watch where it kind of gives some examples of, like, we love Modern Family with the Dunphys, and there's one episode where Phil goes into a nail salon, and it's like 20 women surrounding him, and he's like, so when my wife tells me she has a problem, I'm not supposed to fix it? And all the women are like, no, you just need to listen. He's like, so she starts, she's spouting off all of her problems, and he just starts listening and starts empathizing with her. So I'm a work in progress when it comes to that. I like to think I'm a good listener and sounding board, but I'm still a fixer at heart, and want to try to solve the problem. But I try to, understand people's feelings, and kind of what they're going through, and put myself in their shoes.
I'm sure there's many dads at home that can learn from this part of the conversation. I got taught this way of questioning called TED-based questions, which stands for Tell Me, Explain, Describe. And it is absolute. They're like cheat codes in video games. And so I practice on my kids. I practice on my wife. But it helps me be more present, helps me be more genuine. So it's like, tell me more. The number of times I've said, "Oh, I'm sorry, honey, tell me more about that." She's never said, "Casey, go after yourself. I don't want to keep talking about me. I don't want to keep talking." And it's like absolute gold. And then with younger kids, tell me two things about your day that you liked versus how was your day? Good, Dad. What'd you do at school? Nothing.
Yeah.
And it teaches like follow up skills. So tell me more about that. Oh, describe why I would be like that. And so maybe something to try
Yeah,
with
definitely.
your wife.
Yeah, because it's so hard to pull. Like, I pick up my son from school. How was your day? It's good. What'd you guys do? Nothing. Right?
Yeah, one word
It's
answers.
hard to pull stuff out of them sometimes. So
Tell me
yeah, I'll
why it
definitely
was
try that.
good.
Yeah,
Tell
exactly.
me one reason why it was good.
Yeah. He's like,
And
Dad,
it's
come on, Dad. Yeah.
right. Exactly. Empathy is I'm a competitive person. And so I think this journey of podcasting, we're in season 5, like I mentioned, 260 something dads. Thank you everybody who's been with the journey with me. And so I feel like every dad I talk to, Adam, it's free therapy.
Yeah.
Reminding me about what's most important. I think you said something earlier. I love you say the quote again about you don't about business and life. Your life revolves around your
Oh
business.
yeah. To build your business around your life, not your life around your business.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I think I feel like I'm living that now. I was a corporate guy for 20 years and 25 years actually. But now the flexibility to do what I'm doing. And I feel like this is my calling from
Yeah.
the coaching, speaking, author, podcast world. And like today's a perfect example. It's going to be a watershed day with taking my son off to college, and being here, and I'm not stuck and I'm so grateful for that. And I know, I'm big into the word humility and vulnerability. And so I know that that's everybody else doesn't get that opportunity, but I'm very grateful that the stage of life. And so when you said that, like hit me right in the heart. Cause I was like, that spoke to me, and I'm sure it spoke to other parents at home.
Yeah. Yeah. I try to I get up super early and, I'm up by usually 4:30 in the morning because I can have a couple hours of time before my wife gets up and my little guy gets up. And I'm done by 2:30 or 3 o'clock every day because once he gets home, I'm not going to be in my office. I'm not going to be on Zoom calls. I'm going to be present with him and do fun things with him and just be there. So that's kind of how I structure my day. Is someone wants to meet with me at 4 or 5 o'clock, it'd be pretty rare because I try to have that family time and not be distracted by work.
Tell me how you stay diligent and um, consistent with that. Cause I think a lot of parents will say that, but then something happens, or, I mean, maybe give dads advice at home for how you do that.
Um, I started. I mean, I think the key was I just started doing it. Now we have two cats that we rescued, so they got used to me waking up at 4:30. So now if I am not up, they're in my face, kind of smacking me because they're so used to being fed that early in the morning. So that helps me get up when they jump on top of me. But just I think once you start to get in the habit of it and the routine of it, having those couple hours in the morning where I can read for half an hour and have a cup of coffee, I can go for a walk, I can go to the gym, I can meditate, I can kind of plan my day. I try not to check my email for the first couple hours, um, so I can have some time just to focus on me. That way, I'm not getting up late and rushing him to school and rushing around the house and just my day just starts when it starts better like that. The entire day goes better. And I'm a morning person. My wife's not so much. She's a night owl, so she'll be up reading till midnight, and I'm getting up a few hours later. But I think with any new habit, you just have to, if you're kind of stuck in your routine and your comfort zone, break free, do something completely different than what you're used to doing.
Mm-hmm.
And once you start doing it, it becomes just ingrained. And now my natural clock, I'm up, without an alarm, and at it every morning.
Wow.
Even on the weekends, I don't sleep in. I mean, when we go to a hotel and the cats aren't waking me up, I might sleep till 6 or 7, but I can't sleep past that. I mean, my body's saying get up and go after it. So I think you just kind of get used to it.
Have you read Atomic Habits by James Clear?
I have. It's been a while, but I need to go back and reread it. Yeah.
It's a good book. It's again, it can get really good at towards the end. It's funny how a lot of the work I've talked to other dads, or even like my business world, we talk about mindset and controlling your mind, and tools that many people teach. But it's so funny how when I've wired my mind where if I have say we stay out a little later than we should, have a little fun, that next morning I either have a choice to either sleep until 8:30, or get up and work out, or get up and take a walk, or get up and do something. And my mind's like, if I don't stay consistent, I'm gonna go down that wrong path.
Yeah.
And then that's like, even when I do my gratitude work in the morning, I have a journal that I write about that.
Yeah.
And so it just further cements it
Yeah.
into my
I
brain.
actually, so I started posting content daily on LinkedIn. And I'll share a little bit more about what we do at the end, but um, I'd never been one to kind of share regularly, content. I'm not a big social media guy like Facebook. I'll post stuff about family and stuff, but I'm not like trying to run business on Facebook. But with LinkedIn, and I started to do these postings every day. And the guy I'm learning from says people need to get to know you. They need to have that trust factor and feel like, okay, I can relate to this guy. So a post I actually just created that, well, I'll share next week, talks about gratitude and waking up with that attitude of gratitude. And one of the things I put in there was someone out there is praying for the life that you have right now.
Mm.
And you need to appreciate what you have in pursuit of what you want. Right. So I think so many times we focus on, I don't have this, I don't have that, but there are millions and millions of people out there that are in much worse shape that I think we need to just get some perspective sometime.
So true, man. I think that's it's easy to be the victim of our own story. That's also be the hero of your own story. And I think it's really good advice for people to think about. Like, I've seen this is kind of a sad thing. I've had friends lose wives before the age of 40. I had recently my son's buddy's dad had a heart attack, 50 years old, out of nowhere. So like a bad day for me, let's say whatever it is. I mean, we're breathing, right?
Yeah.
And so like
Yeah.
even when I do gratitude work, I say, God, thanks for waking me up today.
Yeah.
It's still, I mean, people say that might be corny, but I'm breathing today.
Yeah. Have you read Two Chairs?
No.
I think it's Bob Bodine who wrote it. Basically, what he talks about is every morning you should start your morning with a conversation with God, right? Have a space in your house, and whether or not you're religious, call it higher power, or call it whatever you want to call it. But I believe there's a higher power universe that's kind of that you can tap into and connect with. But he says basically have a conversation every morning. Have a chair that's just for him to sit, and you're sitting in your normal spot, and just have a conversation back and forth. And it's really interesting when you start to do that on a regular basis. What comes in your head, what thoughts come in your head, what questions you ask, what answers you get. It's fascinating.
Wow. Is Bob Bodine, is he the,
I think it's Bob
was
Bodine.
Was he like a recruiter for athletic directors?
I don't know his background. It was so I had a call with a guy, had a great call, and it was, it was a prospecting call, but it turned into just a great connecting call. And he said, I want you to read this book. And anytime someone says that, I kind of take that as a hint that there's a reason why he said that.
Yeah.
It was by, Bob Bodine. Yeah. But he's told me to read it, and I read it, and I showed it to my wife. I shared it with her, and she read it too. And she's like, that was amazing. She's like, one of the best books I've ever read.
Well, I'm writing it down. When I get down to that, I will follow back up with you.
Yeah, definitely.
Hold me accountable right there. I love reading. I just read a book called Turn the Ship Around by David Marquette, which is about, it's a fantastic book. It's really kind of hits one of my superpowers I like to unlock, which is curiosity. And it talks about how he turned like a nuclear leadership model, how he just turned this like nuclear submarine that was not doing too good from a culture perspective. And things he talks about is a leader model versus a leader follower.
Mm-hmm.
So just as relating to fatherhood, we can keep telling our kids what to do. Hey, do this, do that, do this. But if we ask questions to make what we want them to do their idea, and create what he calls deliberate action, create them, give them the tools to go do what we can do now. That just isn't just going to miraculously happen.
Yeah.
But
That's awesome.
I wrote that down for sure. As you think about your, the things that are most important to you and your wife in raising your 9-year-old son, what are a couple must-haves, or like relating to your childhood earlier asked, but like what are a couple values that like are like staples in your current household?
Work hard, be a positive role model. I think we have done a good job of raising him so far. We could always do better, but we told him, we want you to be friends with everybody. Not everybody's going to be your friend, but we want you to, be the person that helps, the person that has Down syndrome at school, and hold the door open for someone. Say thank you. Say please. So just kind of being polite, being a good person, having confidence in himself, I think is important as well. But right now, where he's kind of at the stage where, we want him just to be a good person at school, be a hard worker, be a good listener, be a good student, be a good friend. And that's our main goal with him right now, is just to instill that confidence. And we want him to be the kid at school that everybody wants to be friends with.
Yeah, that's good. It's relationships, man. I think many people don't slow down to teach how relationships are built. That's something I'm very, very passionate about. It's not just a skill you miraculously learn how to do. Like you have to understand, like, what does it mean to be nice? It's like, I think the second and third level questions that we can have with our kids is where that gold comes out. What's been the hardest part of fatherhood for you?
Ooh, that's a good question. Probably trying to make him more self-sufficient. I think, we do a lot of things for him, right? I think as parents, at least as I was growing up, my mom did everything for me, right? So we want them to become a little bit more self-reliant and start to do things on their own. Now he's at the age where, he should be getting up and doing his homework. He should be getting up and doing his reading without me having to ask him to do it. So just giving him a little bit more self-control and power over his life and making sure he makes the choices, and it's not just mom and dad telling him what to do.
Yep, many parents are going to deal with that.
Yeah.
We dealt with that. One of the biggest gifts COVID gave us was it was a little punch in the face. Like, wow, we are doing way too much for our kids.
Yeah.
Now our kids are like short order cooks.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
One of the books that helped me through that, it's turning into a little book club here, buddy, is a book written by a guy named Swen Nader, who wrote the book "You've Not Taught Until They Have Learned."
Oh, I like that title.
And he's a former podcast guest. He's a Seattle guy. He played basketball for a guy you might have heard of, a guy named John Wooden.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, his story is unbelievable. He literally, John Wooden was recruiting him, and he said, and Swan at the time was one of the top basketball players in the nation. He said, "Come play for me, but you're not going to play at all. But I guarantee I'll get you to the NBA." He played behind a guy you might have heard named Bill Walton. Rest in peace. And so a lot of his book he wrote about. So a lot of the principles were from his lessons from Wooden. I was like, I'm reading that in a
Oh, that's
heartbeat.
going to be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like, again, dads and moms, we want to empower our kids to do these things. And shoot, I'm far from perfect there, but like, I think it's having the mindset that that's something. It's so like now you say it, but how do we go do it?
Right. Yeah.
And which requires patience, which is one of my weaknesses, as you think about, like, I always like to ask this question for dads, like an area of your dad game that maybe it's not the best right now. That like, God, I have to get better at that. Like for me, it definitely is. I didn't want to be the freak out dad. Sometimes my dad passed away, unfortunately, 2021. My dad could drop the most amazing goddammits at me as a kid, and they've made me laugh so hard sometimes, and that would make him more mad.
Yeah.
God damn it, Casey. And me and my sister would laugh. And but patience was his gap. And it's almost like using your breath to like slow down. So as I'm leading my witness here, tell me what would be an area of your dad game that you're constantly still working on?
Yeah, I'm a big jokester. My dad's a big jokester. My son's a big jokester. We literally all look alike, and we sound alike, and we talk alike, and we act alike. But I think sometimes that can come across as maybe we take it sometimes too far with mom, because mom's the only female in the house with 3 boys, and my brother and his family, it's all boys. So there's literally no girls in the house. So sometimes I think it can come across as a little bit, not maybe criticizing or poking a little bit too much fun at mom. We do it, and we do it out of love because we like to make her laugh. But I think we could work on that and make sure that, hey, listen, just because we think it's funny doesn't mean that mom or other people are going to think it's funny. So still working on that with them.
Yeah.
Because I have to lead by example, right? So I like to have fun and mess around and joke around, but I think sometimes it just comes across the wrong way.
That's a good one. I think class clown, I've checked that box as well. And you think it's funny, but like, then I think it goes back to maybe this thing you're working on with your wife is empathy. It's like having empathy for others that, like that joke might not be, but like, so do you then take the responsibility of apologizing, or do you just like let it go? And
yeah, no, usually I catch myself and I'm like, that was, I shouldn't have said that. I apologize. So yeah, I'm starting to catch myself a little bit more, but I am as far as the empathy goes. Now my wife, when I do this though, she kind of just shrugs it off and laughs because she can tell I'm like using a technique on her. Like when she says something like this morning, she had a headache, and I was like, isn't it so frustrating when you have a headache and there's just not much you can do for it, right? It's like, instead of me just running and getting her an ice pack, right? And she looks at me, she's like, give me one of those looks like, really, you're gonna empathize with me now? She's like, just be you.
right.
But yeah, work in progress always.
There we go. Talk to me about how you transitioned from being a golf pro to what you're doing now.
So that was many years ago. That was probably 20 years ago, was when I left the golf business. I had an opportunity to, so I was living in Denver at the time. I was bartending at night, golf pro during the day. So I was working like 78 hours a week. My brother actually started working for a motivational speaker. And an opportunity opened up where I could travel with my brother and the speaker and just do seminars. And so I decided to move to Arizona and take that role. And so that kind of got me into the whole personal development space, self-improvement. We worked with him for about 5 years, and then found our way into a network marketing company. Never thought I was ever going to join one of those. I actually posted something on LinkedIn today about that. That was kind of the start of my entrepreneurial journey. Did that for a number of years, and then, just got burned out. I mean, just got tired of the grind, and I got recruited to work for a network marketing company on the corporate side. So I'd never really had a job, but I took that. We had just had Hudson. This was 9 years ago. And I was there for a few years, and I got laid off out of the blue. And I had a friend of mine that reached out and said, "Hey, you've been in networking and sales your entire life. I have a new startup. I need some help generating some business. Can you help me?" That's how I found my way into doing the work that we're doing now. And now, almost 7 years later, I've been working from home. It's so much better. The lifestyle. I mean, when I was working the corporate job, I had to drive an hour each way to work. I was on the road traveling probably 10 days a month. So I was missing a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'd have to leave the house at 7 in the morning. I wouldn't be back till 6. And so now, like we talk about building your business around your life, I'm able to do that. I'm so grateful to be able to wake up and have time with my son in the morning and not have to rush off to work. I can take him to school. I can go to lunch with my wife if I want to. I can pick him up every day. So that's kind of how my career has progressed. It's, I went to school to be a golf pro. I'm not doing anything with that anymore. I think a lot of people go to school with one thing in mind and just don't make plans, because God has a funny way of laughing at you when you try to make plans and things change.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's been an interesting journey.
And so tell us about your company.
So we started. So it's called Ninja Prospecting. So we do a lot of work with coaches, consultants, speakers, authors. A lot of people just need help generating more conversations. Call them conversations. Call them leads. Call them opportunities. We're really good at kind of crafting what's the right approach, strategy to start more of those conversations in a way that focuses on adding value and building relationships versus just connecting and pitching and selling, which is what a lot of people do. And so that's our focus, is helping a lot of the coaches and consultants out there start more conversations naturally, and build a pipeline of potential opportunities for now or in the future. So we do a lot of work mainly on LinkedIn, is kind of where we play.
Yeah, that's funny. That's awesome. That's good for you guys. It's unfortunate that many people still don't understand that. The number of people that, I'm sure you get it, they reach out and they can solve all my problems, yet they're not asking me any questions.
Exactly.
It's like, I'm not connecting with you, dude. It's
Yeah.
like there's a great dude named John Morris who I just connected to. He's got a great podcast. He's former guest. Shout out to him. He literally will just does the same thing. It's like, no, I'm not answering you. And so again, it's funny how our a good old friend named Voltaire, shout out to him, back in the 1500s. He said a man is not judged by his answers, but by his questions. So like, there were teaching curiosity back then, yet we still don't
Yeah.
understand it, which
I know.
blows my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you approach someone the way I like to approach it is, if I approach somebody the right way, ask the right question. I don't make any assumptions. I ask permission. If I approach someone the right way, even if there's not a need,
Mm-hmm.
I keep the door open for a future conversation. It's like asking someone to marry you on the first date. You can't backtrack and then ask them to go on a date, right? If I come at you too hard, too fast, too soon, there's no trust, there's no credibility, there's no relationship. And so that approach doesn't work anymore on social media. You have to be a little bit more strategic and focus on adding value first before you ask someone for something.
Yeah.
But asking the right questions is key.
Well, I think it's how you and I are here today. I think your dad, because he works with you, he reached out, saw me somehow. You and I had a short conversation, which kind of led to this. Which, it's funny. I never thought in my wildest dreams having a podcast would generate like speaking opportunities or coaching, but it is definitely a biz dev tool. I still don't use it that way. My goal is definitely I want to become a better dad. I want to talk to dads. I want to like create space for us to like be vulnerable, be humble, work on our curiosity, work on our empathy, like things we've talked about today. But it's just interesting how when it happens organically,
Yeah.
that's why I said earlier, I feel like this is my calling. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I love the. I do a lot of podcasts. I don't do a lot of podcasts that are focused on. I haven't done anyone that's just focused on being a dad. So I appreciate you doing this. I think it's going to help a lot of people. I'm sure it already
Oh, very
has.
cool. Oh, appreciate that, dude. Okay, so if we were to wrap up and summarize what we've talked about today, the dads can take, maybe we'll call it 2 or 3 actionable things they can take from what we've talked about today that they can maybe look themselves in the mirror and really self-evaluate. What are some areas, that they can say, man, these are areas I can work on to become a better dad based on what we've talked about today. Adam, tell me what comes to mind.
Yeah, like we talked about, always trying to work on myself and be the best version of myself. Because, like you said, kids are watching even when we don't think that they are. Yeah, and I want to look in the mirror and be proud of who I am, because I know if I'm proud of who I am, then that's gonna translate to my son seeing me that way and kind of learning from me. And I want to be a good role model for him. I want to show him how to treat people, how to respect people, how to work hard, how to, be a good, member of, of your school and society, and have empathy for people that aren't so fortunate. But I think just the lessons that I learned growing up of, work harder on yourself than you do on your job, is something that Jim Rohn said that has always stuck with me. That if I work on myself and try to get a little bit better every single day, my son's probably watching me and seeing, okay, I want to be like dad. And that's my goal.
Gold. Love it, man. Um, uh, Simple stuff that but very complex, everybody. But if you really slow down to give yourself space, I can't wait to read this book, Two Chairs. I'm going to definitely read that. Um, it's amazing what clarity comes from your life when you work on these types of things, and the being present and what you said earlier. Don't let your job define you. Don't let it drive you. Like do the opposite. What Adam talks about. I think it's such gold. And we can either tell yourself, "Well, I can't do that. Must be nice." Bullshit. Anybody
Yeah.
can do this.
Yeah.
Ask for help.
Yeah.
Reach out to somebody. Be vulnerable. So I think what you said is freaking spot on, dude. I love it. Um, how can people find you? How can I make sure that we get people if they are a coach, a consultant, they want to learn how to learn more about ninja prospecting? Tell me what's the best place to send them.
Yeah. Either connect with me on LinkedIn or ninjaprospecting.com. Tons of info there. And yeah, that's the easiest way to find me.
Cool. We'll make sure that's linked in the show notes. It's now time to go on what I call the lightning round. These are when I ask you random questions of showing you the negative hits of too many hits in college, not bong hits, but football hits at the quarterback position. That's an Uncle Rico moment right there. Uh, your job is to answer them quickly, and my job is to try to get a giggle out of you.
Okay.
Okay. True or false, you call your wife Madonna with meatballs.
False.
Okay, we both laugh. That's a tie. True or false, you have a crush on Mrs. Havenkamp.
True. I love old people.
Mrs. Havenkamp, everybody, is a character from Caddyshack. She'll love to do it.
That's a peach, hon.
Oh, golly, I'm hot today. If I was to go into your phone right now, what would be the one song that all your clients would be surprised you listen to?
Oh man, I listen to all my son's playlists right now because he's addicted to music, loves it. So, but I like to. Oh man, let me think of a good song. I know it's supposed to be a quick answer. My walk up song when I was doing a lot of speaking was Hanson, Umbop.
Mbop?
Yeah.
Solid. Solid
Yeah,
choice.
I have the most random music taste: '80s music, ballads, old school rap. Yeah, pretty random.
I love old school rap. I've been doing a lot of Biggie recently.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome.
I love some Biggie. If I was to come to your house for dinner tonight, what would we have?
Oh, what are we having tonight? I don't know. My wife is an awesome cook, so I told her last night she needs to make her lasagna again. She's Italian, so but yeah, she made meatloaf the other night. She makes
Ma,
just about
meatloaf.
everything. Oh, I know, she's so good. Yeah, yeah, we eat very well here.
Very good. Um, Lowest golf round ever is
65.
Jesus.
I shot
And
67 last weekend though, so I was pretty happy with that. So
look at you.
took my two stepsons out, and I still had to teach them a lesson. So
Took him to the woodshed.
yeah.
Well done. If you were to go on a vacation right now, where are you and your wife going? No kids.
Oh, no kids. Where are we going? We would go to Hawaii, Maui,
Oh,
stay on the beach.
Love it.
Yeah.
And then actually, before I ask the last question, if there was to be a book written about your life, tell me the title.
I actually wrote a book that I haven't published yet. It's called The Caddy Master. Kind of a story about kind of my evolution in entrepreneurship. But yeah, I'd say The Caddy Master. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Caddy Master, once it gets out there, people are going to love it. It's going to be selling out of every bookstore, every airport. But now Netflix has found it and they want to make a movie out of it. And you're the casting director. I need to know who's going to star you in Caddy Master.
Matt Damon.
Solid choice, Matty D. All right. And then last question. Tell me 2 words that describe your wife.
Boy, gorgeous and sweet.
There we go. Gorgeous and sweet. Lightning round's over. We both giggle. I laughed at my own joke, so I'm going to give you the dub. This has been a blast getting to know you, Adam. Grateful that you guys found me, and I'm grateful that you spent some time with us this morning to talk about fatherhood. And I hope everybody have a page of notes. I do. And if this episode has touched you in any way or impacted how you think, please share it with others. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe so you get episodes every Thursday morning. And lastly, if you've not taken time to leave us a review wherever you consume your podcast, please do that. That would mean the world to us. And if there's ways you think we can be better, or if there's a guest in mind, please reach out to us. I'm very active on LinkedIn myself. You can also find us through caseyjaycox.com/podcast. But Adam, a blast getting to know you. I really, really appreciate you. And I hope to have a chance to play some golf with you soon.
Absolutely. Have a great day today with your son too.
Thanks, man.